Ben had checked his plumber's badge, pulling up the GPS system on it and pointing out that where there's a badge there's a plumber or a plumber's kid, and they should check it out given what Grandpa Max had said about putting together a team and that they'd have a better chance of taking down the DNaliens with more allies. While on the road, they were discussing how exactly the plan was going to work out, with Ben saying that they'd only need to ask for their help when they encountered problems bigger than the three of them could handle. As they then saw a truck swerve and crash, so Kevin pulled over and the three got out to help. Ben tells Gwen to take out the flames and for Kevin to get the driver out of there, while he dealt with the overpass and hit the Omnitrix, changing into Humongosaur and going under the overpass and growing in size, helping to hold it in place while the people were getting to safety. Gwen uses an ice spell to freeze over the truck, putting out the flames in the process and then starting to help people get to safety, with Kevin absorbing the metal from the truck and ripping off the roof of the cab, helping get the driver free and off to safety. They do see a girl looking sickly wandering out into the road and someone glowing in a golden energy flying down and grabbing her before she was hit by traffic. After everyone was safe, Gwen called out to Ben that it was safe to let it drop, and so he let the rubble slide to one side and changed back into his human form, as they see the girl saying something about needing to get out of there because she was running, but the guy tells her that she's safe now. They go to speak with the guy that saved the girl, with Kevin taking note that he had a plumber's badge, though Ben wasn't quite trusting of them, and asked how exactly the guy got it, to which the guy introduced himself as Michael and says that his dad gave it to him. He seemed to show interest in Gwen given how he was looking at them, which only served to irritate Ben more. Gwen introduced herself, Ben and Kevin, to Michael, and he seemed surprised, asking if he was the Ben Tennyson, as Ben says that he is, stepping between Michael and Gwen. It was subtle, but enough to get the point across that Michael should back away, confusing Gwen. Michael does step back, knowing Ben's reputation, and Gwen decided to check on the girl, asking if she was alright, seeing a strange marking on her arm where she's had her hand previously. Gwen snapped a pic and texted it to Charmcaster because something about it felt off. Michael says they can meet up at his place after he makes sure that Trina gets home safely, to which Gwen moves away from the girl and Michael leaves with Trina, and then Kevin asks Ben just what's gotten into him, to which Ben says that something is wrong, and Gwen says that Michael was just trying to help. Ben then asks, was he though? Confusing them. Ben asks Gwen if Charmcaster had gotten back to her yet, to which she checks her phone and reads the message telling Ben that it seems Charmcaster hadn't seen that symbol before, nor had Hex, apparently. Ben then tells Gwen that it's because it's not a symbol, it's a bite mark, surprising the two of them. Gwen asked how exactly he knows that, and he says that it's because he's seen it before, and judging by how Michael was looking at Gwen, he's the one that put it there on Trina, confusing them again. So he goes on to say that Michael wasn't playing the hero, he was just hunting down his lunch. Gwen starts to get mad, asking Ben how exactly he knows that given what they just saw him doing, and Ben removes his shirt, showing a similar marking on the back of his right shoulder, making the two look surprised. Ben then tells them that they should be cautious around Michael and find out how exactly he got the plumber's badge, because he isn't convinced it's not stolen or counterfeit. We later on see them checking out Michael's setup, as he says the stuff belonged to his dad, and that he'd brought it over from his headquarters, and offers to take Gwen there, though Ben glares at Michael, making him take a step back. Though he did try to grab Gwen's wrist, saying he wanted to show her something, but she moves it out of the way, confusing him slightly, but he just leads the way. Michael shows them that he's patched into everything thanks to his dad's gear, with Ben being unimpressed by that, with Gwen saying it sounds like Michael is playing superhero, though Michael says that he's never actually thought about it that way before. Kevin points out that there's a surge going on at the power plant and says that they should check it out, with Ben nodding and Gwen going along with them, though Michael says he'd join them and followed the group. When they got there, they found several girls there trying to absorb energy from the power plant, and the moment they saw the group, began to attack. Gwen says they should try not to hurt them, as they'd noticed the girls all had the same markings as Trina did, and they were all the same, being similar to the one on Ben's shoulder. They all began to defend themselves from the girls, being careful not to hurt them. Well, all but Michael, who barely showed any concern. While fighting the girls off, Michael noticed that no one was paying attention to him, and then flew down quickly, grabbing Gwen by her wrists from behind and began to absorb her energies, causing her to scream out in pain as his entire body began to glow golden, though he was quickly shot in the face by Ben, who was holding a blaster. "Don't ever touch her again," he demanded, making his way over to where Gwen was with Michael laughing. Michael stood up, asking Ben how long he'd known exactly, to which Ben then answers back that it's kind of hard to miss the signs of an ubros biaton, while getting between him and Gwen, with Gwen slowly standing up shakily as Ben called out to Kevin to get Gwen to safety, though she says she can handle herself but looked like she could faint any moment. I have no doubts you can handle yourself just fine, beautiful, but love means not letting you go it alone, even if you can handle it by yourself. Ben then says, making Gwen look up at him as she slid down onto the floor, with Kevin grabbing Gwen and helping move her away from Michael. Gwen had passed out not long after that as Michael asked how exactly Ben was going to stop him given all the power he'd just gotten from that tasty redhead, going on to mock him for letting them turn their backs to him. Though Ben puts down the blaster and slaps the Omnitrix, changing into Way Big, and slammed his fist into Michael, then continued to beat him into the ground for doing that to Gwen. The girls stopped looking at Ben before back to Michael, and then began to attack Michael, trying to feed off of him, causing him to start losing the glow and making him become pale, with his hair turning white and being ripped out in some places as the girls began to look normal again. Ben then returned back to normal and took Michael's badge, telling him he didn't deserve one, then began to leave. Gwen woke up a few days later after what had happened and looked around, seeing her mother sitting beside the bed, and tries to sit up, asking her mother what had happened, and she said that from what she was told, Gwen had passed out after feeling weak, and Ben and that other guy immediately brought her to the hospital. Nodding, she asked where exactly Ben was, and she'd said that he was in the waiting room and that he hadn't left since she was brought in, with the doctor coming in soon after asking how Gwen was feeling. She said she was feeling a little better, and Natalie says that she'll go let them know that Gwen was alright, and began to leave the room. Not long after, Ben had come into the room to check on Gwen and asked how she was feeling, to which she says that she's been better, and asked what he'd told them about what happened. And so he told her basically the same thing that Natalie had said. Then jokes that he couldn't exactly tell them an alien energy vampire tried to drain her dry. She laughed and decided to tease Ben a bit, saying, "So, about that love speech," to which Ben scratches the back of his head guiltily and says that, "You know I love you, Gwen," and she nods, hugging him around the neck with her head resting on his chest, relaxing and saying, "I love you too, Ben." And then the two enjoy the moment of quiet together before Charmcaster then comes barging in to check on Gwen worriedly after having been told she was now awake.